Okay, so today I sit down with Shaun Harris of Harris Associates. Shaun's business approaches 20 years next year. Great guy, a lot of pearls of wisdom about running a business, about doing it the traditional way for a long time, but then the need to evolve and recognize that it needs to evolve, about being a leader, about the fact that you have to wear multiple hats at multiple times and you have to adjust and work with that. I think you'll all enjoy the chat with Shaun. Really interesting. Again, not had many people on so far in the building surveying and then compliance space, which again, I think you'll get some interesting stuff from Shaun from this. So, delighted to welcome Shaun Harris of Harris Associates to the pod. Welcome, Shaun.
Good afternoon.
No, thanks for coming on board.
Pleasure.
I'm intrigued by this one. I've already been told by some of your team this should be a firecracker. So I'm hoping it's.
So now I'm under pressure. I'm going to disappoint for sure.
And I'm sure you won't. To begin with, so everyone gets an understanding, can you give us a kind of overview of the business, current headcount, offices, etc.?
So Harris Associates, we're a built environment consultancy.
Yeah.
Multi-disciplinary. So we've got engineers, technicians, surveyors. Work multiple sectors throughout the UK. Main office is in Farringdon, London, but we've got quite a big office in Manchester, and then we've got offices in Birmingham, Cardiff, Edinburgh.
Oh wow!
And we've got a small one in the southeast in Tunbridge Wells.
Right. Okay. Wow. So what's the rough split across the different disciplines?
So we at the moment a lot of our work is centred around compliance.
Okay.
But when I mean compliance, that's everything from building safety, health and safety, fire safety, and then leading on to strategies, remediation, building work, construction maintenance, and so on. Okay. In terms of the split between sectors, it's probably 50-50 between residential and commercial industrial.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of the split of disciplines, engineers, project managers, etc.
So I started off I'm a chartered building surveyor. So, okay. But building surveyor wise, just percentage wise, as a business, it's probably 40% building surveyors.
Right, okay.
And then 20% QSs, and then a mix of engineers and technicians.
Right, brilliant.
And in terms of count, I think we're up to about 31, 32. But by the end of this year, we expect that to be nearer 40.
Right, brilliant. Okay, so expanding.
Yeah, lots to do. There's so much opportunity out there.
Yeah.
And it's it's exciting.
And is that across all of those three kind of core sectors, residential, commercial, industrial, or you'd say?
So yes is the answer. The real, where the opportunities really exist is in compliance.
Yeah.
If you just look at it from a customer perspective, and those customers could be in any industry. When it comes to the built environment, they've got assets, they've got buildings, they've got estates, they've got plans for development and redevelopment, how they manage those assets. The statutory framework that is ever evolving is becoming more complex. And to a lot of people, that's quite high risk. For me, I see that as a huge opportunity. And we have the skills to make our customers and our clients make their journey through that landscape a lot easier.
When you say compliance, Shaun, is that compliance? Well, maybe across. I guess the answer is probably both. But compliance across new buildings or compliance against existing assets.
The new buildings, you could argue, is a lot easier. You're almost, you're starting on a blank page almost. Yeah. So it's a lot easier to comply. It's more straightforward. It's a more linear route to comply for a new development or estate or a building. The real challenge is where you have existing stock, of which obviously there's more existing stock than there are new coming on. So that's the challenge in terms of bringing those properties and those assets up to standard, so as they comply with the evolving regulations of the day, and then also making sure that your clients understand the risks associated with keeping those assets? Do they need to plan for getting rid of them? So, you know, it's a real mix of skills and advice that we offer.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. And like you say, the where we are at the moment from regulatory standpoint, it's obviously going to grow, and there's also probably a great time to be in the space you're in terms of, you know, I think it's going to be a golden era for building surveying. You know, if we push towards net zero regulation, don't demolish, reuse. You think it should be a golden era.
It's an interesting thing you say, building surveying. So the one thing that I have said repeatedly to everyone at Harris. So to the building surveyors, for example, they will have heard me saying, do not consider yourself just a building surveyor.
Right, okay.
And you don't consider yourself a quantity surveyor.
Right.
Yeah. You need to have a wider appeal. We don't work in silos, either as a business or within the business. So you need to think a lot wider. You know, when I started out 30 odd years ago, building surveying was much, you know, more straightforward, less complex, and you needed less skills. Now the skills and the breadth of opportunity and challenge is amazing. And so it's not just building surveying where there is opportunity. It's across the board, and in all of the disciplines. Most recently, you know, we've got in-house fire engineering. Now, huge opportunities for fire engineers, but we don't think, you know, fire engineers are doing this, building surveyors are doing that, quantity surveyors are doing this. It's you have to work out what your customers want and need, and then you meld your diverse team together to serve those customers. So yes, it's good for building surveyors at the moment with all the net zero and retrofit and so on, but the opportunities are there for all the disciplines.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. Yeah, 100%. And like you say, they can mold out. They can go into an EA role, a PM role, if necessary, for both of those disciplines. Yeah. In effect. So you sound like you got a lot of offices. Is that where you've just identified someone who's a good operator, and you go, you know what, or that justifies it, or the client driver there? It's
not necessarily client or customer driven. It's opportunity driven. So, for example, the Manchester office was set up because we were getting a lot of facade remediation, a lot of cladding work, a lot of compliance and expert facade instructions. And it just made sense to have an office. You know, traveling up and down from London made no sense. And that's the same with Birmingham, and it's followed on into Wales and Scotland. The Wales and Scottish offices were a little bit further behind, primarily because the sector or the sectors were also a little bit further behind in terms of their development and maturity.
Right, okay, with you.
Yeah. So we followed the work where we saw that there was an up and coming opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. So around 30 staff now, going up to 40 staff. That's a 33% increase, if my maths are correct. That sounds like quite a lot of growth. Is that just reflective of you're busy?
One, we're busy. That's really it. But it's also I'm continually looking for quality. And the biggest challenge we have at the moment is, I'll say the biggest challenge. Well, one of the challenges we have at the moment is identifying quality resource. You know, people with expertise and with the right attitude, the right approach. There's not enough resource generally. And it's even tougher to find the quality. So we're permanently looking, even when we're not sure, you know. Really what I'm saying is that if we find some quality, we'll find room for you. In terms of the reason for the increase, is just because we see the growth. We just see so this year, the fire engineering will grow. It will grow exponentially. We've secured an amazing PI cover, 10 million each and every claim. It's almost unheard of in the industry. No exclusions, no restrictions, even for fire engineering. So we're pushing that, and we're going to motor on the fire engineering side.
Yeah, and for obvious reasons, it's a growing space. But like you say, finding good ones, that's
It's a tough call.
Tight market. Yeah, that's a really tight market. I'll tell you what blew my mind the other day. You don't have to tell us the numbers, Shaun, but somebody was telling me about just the cost of PI cover. I couldn't believe the numbers that I was being told in terms of what it costs consultancies to have in place. It's a sizable chunk of money each year.
It's a big figure.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. So just as a percentage over 4 years, I'm just trying to think of a factor. I don't want to give you a number.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Going back 4 years, if our PI cover premium was X, that's gone up, 20-fold probably.
Wow.
But you need it. We have, the work that we do. It's interesting. So, to some, the work that we do is considered high risk. High risk buildings, high risk in terms of the advice that we're giving. I don't see it as high risk. If you do your job properly, and then everything should follow.
Sure. Yeah.
But it is the PI is it's a must. There are minimum levels that certain clients have. So we work with some top tier developers, residential developers, commercial developers actually, and they demand a minimum level of cover. So you invest in that, but you get that back from the quality and numbers of instructions and the work that you get as a result of it.
Yeah, no, good, perfect. And just going back to, I guess, what you started, am I right in saying 2007 the business started?
So Harris, it must be. Yes, so we're 20 next year, 2027. Yeah. So brilliant. 2007. Yeah.
So take me back to those days. Obviously,
how
at some point you must have grown modestly, and then it took off. There must have been something that.
Yeah. So when I started out, it was a small practice. It came from something else, and it was just building surveying, and really the trigger to the growth was probably around about 2019,
right
around that time, where the opportunities that really flowed from Grenfell, in terms of fire safety, remediation, and so on. And so there's been a huge growth since then. And that's just spurred us on to new services and pushing out in different areas, and actually using the success of the work that we've done in that space to move into new areas.
One of the things that good companies do well sometimes is just respond to the speed at which you respond to market change or market opportunities.
Yeah, well, we're agile in terms of there's not a big hierarchy. There's not hordes of directors or collectives trying to make decisions about this, that, and the other. So we're very agile. In terms of the structure, there's me, and then there's heads of department, directors, associate directors. They all have access to me. Very fluid, very open. Somebody has an idea, or there's a movement in the market, or what have you. We can the decision making process is rapid, and that's really what we did back in 2019, 2020. We were able to pivot and go, well, I said at the time, I think this has got legs. Let's do this, and that's the beauty of having a very simple structure to how you lead the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So for to be ended this year, what if I was saying 5 years' time, is there any vision as to where the business will be at that point?
5 years' time, I'll be on a beach somewhere. 5 years' time. Well, I don't know about 5 years' time, but certainly we're in the middle, in terms of the company, we're in the middle of a modernization program.
Okay.
We've just essentially 2025 was year one, and 2026 is going to be our year two of the modernization program. So we know, and what that means is we rebranded last year. We brought in some new management systems. We've developed services, new services, and so on, and just kind of modernize how we were structured and how we behaved and so on. And now the kick, how we're kicking on in 2026 is geared around working smarter, more efficient, looking at whether it's AI or other digital solutions, and finding those efficiencies to ensure that we continue to be agile in the way that we operate. I see, so 2027 is our 20-year anniversary. We will continue to grow, and we will continue to be able to move fluidly as the market develops or markets develop, and take those opportunities.
So let's break that down, because I think this is quite an interesting point at the moment in terms of a lot of businesses, I would say, modernise is probably a good word, have to modernise. So what have, break that down in more detail, Shaun, what would you say you're doing to modernise, and why do you think you need to?
So there's modernisation in terms, most of the modernisation that we are looking at is geared around doing what we do, but better and more efficient. Okay. And actually, if you think about it, it doesn't matter whether you're using a new piece of equipment, some kit, or a special camera, or a drone or something, or whether you've adopted some software. You're just doing what you're doing now, but you're using tech to do it better, perhaps more accurately, certainly quicker. And you're augmenting, you're supporting the functions that you're already carrying out as professionals. So that's really where the modernisation is, part of where the modernisation is pivoting towards. The other modernisation piece, I suppose, is where you are going, we don't do that. We don't have the resource to do that. Is there another way in which we could do that, but without the resource? So that's when you're starting to look into ways in which others are providing a particular service, but you can use tech to also do that service, but without the heavy resource that you don't have. So the technology advancements is really exciting, and actually I see those who could really benefit within the industry are the dinosaurs, of which I am one. And so what I mean by that is that I have expertise in a whole load of areas, as do many people my age and younger. And if you can meld that in with digital tools and tech and AI and so on, it's going to be quite awesome. The concern will be, I suppose, further down the line is making sure that you still have the experts who are able to use the digital tools, but have actually got the expertise to within them. That's going to be one of the challenges, I think.
I think one of the challenges not only that faces the construction consultancy world, but many industry sectors, is that if through the use of tech and maybe AI, you start to find that a good senior building surveyor, for example, can do more work, maybe doesn't need that junior. The junior's not brought on. If the junior's not brought on, who are the future senior building surveyors in 5-10 years' time?
So I don't have the answer to that. But this is something that the universities and the training boards and like the RSCS and so on, they need to work out a strategy. I'm sure bigger companies are too. You need to have, even with the adoption of whether it's AI or whatever the solution is, you still have to have that human expert. I mean, you'll hear the term human in the loop when people are talking about expertise and talking about AI and so on. I think there will be let's say the building surveyors of tomorrow will have to still have some of those core building surveying skills, but they will also be tech savvy and know their way around the digital world. And that's the transition that's undergoing at the moment. The risk in terms of what you're saying, the concern will be is that if we don't have a generation of seniors and future associates and directors and leaders coming through and learning, then the 20 years time, you're relying on tech to have the right answers as opposed to a dinosaur expert like myself. But I dare say that, there will be a meeting and a melding of those two worlds, and we'll look back in 20 years and what were we all worried about?
I hope so. Yeah, look, I hope so. It is interesting, isn't it? That as a lot of people are going, because the danger with a lot of businesses is that obviously out of a drive of trying to make more profit and more efficiencies, they'll say, well, look, we don't need those young people because.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting you say that. I've actually heard the opposite. So I've heard the opposite in some sectors, not within the construction industry, but within banking, for example, where there's a senior band that's very expensive. And actually, if you're purely looking at it from a financial perspective, you can get rid of that band. And that whatever those functions are can be done by tech, digital, AI, or so on. And actually, you can just have the grads or whoever, the younger cohort, doing the rest of the work.
Well, you make a good point. And it's not that it's not happening in construction. It absolutely is. If you look at a number of the larger consultancies who've let people go, the primary bracket, because there has been a lot of redundancy, probably more than people realise across some of your larger peer group above yourself, Shaun, businesses of thousands of people. Yeah, they've let go of a lot of people, but the main bracket they've let go of is exactly that director.
Because they're expensive. And actually, there's an argument, I suppose, that depending on how old that you are at that cohort, there might be a perception that less likely to be adaptable, embracing tech, and all the rest of it. But I go back to the point I made a moment ago, and I think the dinosaurs are very well placed to, if they can get on board with the digital revolution, if you like, and meld their expertise in with it, then they're in a good spot. I've got 3 sons. One's 14, one's 21, the other one's 23. 23-year-olds did the whole GCSE A-level degree, nice job, working in the city. My 20-year-old going to be doing something similar. By the time my 14-year-old gets to, is he going to go to university? And this is the question. So is there going to be a need to go down that route, or are we going to be looking at more apprenticeships and less, if the less traditional opportunities, i.e., whether it's finance or what have you, if those jobs don't exist, then there's going to be less of a need for those more traditional degree subjects. I think in construction, in the built environment, in the construction, trades, they're going to be in a great spot. They're going to be in a great spot in terms of being in demand.
Yeah, without a doubt. The robots are going to be coming for them last, I think.
Well, they will. That's exactly it. You could argue, surveyors, technicians, engineers, inspections, being out on site and so on. The robots will be last to replace them, as you say.
Albeit I'm not building so myself. I'm hearing someone told me the other day about some of the kind of 360 cameras that exist now that you can go plonk in the middle of a room and it can do a quite amazing accurate condition survey of the room. It can.
The interesting thing, and so you're right. And you could use, that's an example of using tech to an advantage. And actually, some of the tech will do a much better job than humans. If it doesn't make mistakes, it doesn't get tired, it's not had a heavy night on the Sunday the night before, and all that kind of stuff. But interestingly, one of the subjects, one of the core questions, I suppose, is okay, so we can do that, but what happens if it misses something? So then you've got a whole PI insurance thing.
For sure, yeah.
And if the thing that you need to maintain in the middle of everything that you're doing is it who's it benefiting? Is it benefiting just you? Is there some advantage to your customers? If you start to lose sight of that, you'll end up doing stuff that eventually doesn't benefit anyone, and you'll end up losing clients and customers as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where there's got to be some realization. I probably spend more time speaking to QSs than I do any other discipline. And you know, that example of you know, let's say a complex site, maybe a London site, for example. A lot of sites in central London are complex sites by the nature of different stakeholders and stuff. You could rely on a junior QS could come in and you know, we're not there yet, I appreciate, but philosophically, a younger QS could come in and have a cost plan produced by AI, and take it for verbatim that it's correct, without understanding that the experienced QS will walk in there and go, well, you've not looked at anything that's going on below ground and the complications that may occur off that. This is a site in the middle of London which has got really limited access, or whatever it may be. There's things that only someone who's gone through this journey quite a few times on projects kind of know some of the points to pick out.
So that's the dinosaur argument, and it's also, you know, the term human in the loop. If you don't have that human expert, and you're at the moment anyway, if you're 100% reliant on what the AI produces, then that's a high risk. That's a high risk to any business. Which is why you need to have, you know, and we have it at Harris, you know, processes and protocols that limit and record and control, whether it's chat or some other search process. There has to be a process that you put in place from a qualitative perspective, that you're making sure that there's a process of validation. If you don't have the validation, then you're just keeping your fingers crossed.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Let's switch gears. I was trying to think through while we were talking there, Shaun, about everyone I've had on so far. And I think absolutely, with the exception of me, because I've been doing this a long time, I can't think of anybody who's been running a business for 20 years. So what lessons, what mistakes, big ones would you say you've made over the years? You'd maybe do things differently if you had a chance again?
I wouldn't do anything differently if I had a chance again. And the only reason why I say that is because I wouldn't be here now. You know, that was my path. And I'm comfortable.
And you learn by mistakes. There's a lot to be said for that.
Any big mistakes? I mean, maybe I can't think of any offhand. Are there little mistakes every single day? Of course. All sorts of lessons. I mean, I do take my my role within the business as being the leader very seriously, and I do take time to, even if they don't want to listen to it, but I do rabbit on to impart, you know, my experiences or you know, commentary here and direction, and you know, talk about mistakes. The one thing that all the staff will hear me say is take risks. Just take a risk. And I think it's tougher these days for a lot of the younger generation coming through to be comfortable with the notion of taking a risk. And what I don't mean taking a risk is, I'm not going to do my job properly. But actually taking a risk of saying something that you know, this is what I think. Don't hide behind caveats and it might be this, it might be, I'm not quite. Just, you know, say as you see. But also take yourself outside of your comfort zone and push yourself, and get comfortable with the notion of failure. If you think you're going to go through your career where everything's going to be a breeze and you're not going to make any mistakes, then think again. But you have to get comfortable that sometimes you will make a mistake. But it's how you react to that mistake, and you learn from it and you move on, which is critical. And it's that kind of positivity that that runs through the company. You know, I've in the past, you know, I've had surveyors come to me with a problem that they just can't see their way through. It's just like the worst of problems, you know. And it is a mistake. They've made a mistake, and but in the scheme of things, it's quite a small thing. You know, I had somebody, you know, years ago that they'd specified the wrong paint for some steel work, and at the time it was, as an extra variation of a £2,000 or so, and it was, the surveyor in question couldn't see, just the world was imploding. And I said, look, the sun will rise tomorrow. We'll get this solved in a week or 2 weeks or a year. You will look back and you go, oh, why was I so stressed? I'm not being frivolous about making mistakes. Don't get me wrong.
But equally, we're not a surgeon, are we? We don't have somebody's life on the table in front of us either.
I mean, I suppose it's a bit of a juxtaposition between me encouraging people to take risks, but at the same time driving into everyone that the business we're in relies on accuracy. Yeah, accuracy. Be accurate. Do your job properly. Eye to detail. Don't take risk with that. Make sure you do your job properly. So you limit the notion of making a silly mistake and so on. But yeah, get comfortable with the fact that you're not going to get it right 100% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't be a yes man. Don't just say yes to everything.
Well, that's the other thing is that it's a very open office. And actually, one of the things sometimes you don't really understand. You don't realize things. And last year we were talking about there were little groups ahead of the rebranding and so on, talking about what's good about working at Harris. And one of the themes that kept coming back was accessibility to me. And I had never really thought about it.
Right, okay.
But in other organizations, the accessibility to the bloke who makes the key decisions and leading is nowhere to be seen. It's more difficult to get access. So that was one of the interesting things, a part of the rebrand last year, is being quite open and accessible, and which encourages the point that you're making. It encourages people to come forward with different ideas, and we can work with those and develop those. Literally last week, somebody came to me and said, "What do you think of this?" And within 10 minutes, we decided that that's going to be a new service line, and off we go.
Brilliant. And this is the joys of a small business that's dynamic. You can just say, well, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes what's the worst that can happen? We'll give it a go for a few months. It falls flat on its face. Well, that's fine.
We 10 years ago, maybe something like, it must have been about 10 years ago. I came out with this amazing idea. This is going to change the face of the industry, and for this reason or that reason. I even went to the trouble of getting a patent for this particular wording and what have you. Nothing. Yeah, absolutely zip. Went nowhere. Complete waste of time. But you know what? You just got to, if you feel that this could be a go, you just got to follow it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Like Michael Jordan said about the amount of hoops he's actually missed over the years. You got to. If you don't shoot, you're never going to score anything out at the end of the day. So you've got to, and that is business sometimes, isn't it? It is being comfortable in change, embracing ideas, going for it, learning. Going again. That's just part of being a business owner.
Yeah, it keeps you energetic, gets you up in the morning.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, talk us through, as a business owner, what your typical week is like. Are you on the road a lot? Are you still on the tools, or have you able to move away from that now?
So typical week, I'm in the office pretty much every day. So I get up quite early. I get up about 5 o'clock. I'm in the office for 7.
Okay.
I'll leave about 6.
Right.
My every single day is different. So primarily office based. I might go to meetings outside of the office. The days of me going up and down scaffolding, thank God, are behind me for the most part anyway. I spend a lot of my day in meetings. I spend a lot of my day solving problems, working with different teams on, it might be some marketing, it might be a pitch, it might be helping solve a technical matter, or some contractual complexities come up. So I spend most of the day problem solving and managing, and just as part of my role as the main leader. Part of my role is to encourage others to be leaders too. And leadership for me is a whole load of stuff, but it's primarily about getting stuff done and moving from defined point A to defined point B.
Yeah.
And, so for us at the moment, we're aiming, one of our part of our vision is to become the number one customer service provider in the built environment. So that's my A to B. That's a much longer endeavor. But on a day-to-day, all the other leaders within the group, they have little A's and B's, and it's just encouraging them to work out the best way from getting A to B and solving the problems. So yeah, every day is different. I have a list on average of stuff I need to do that runs into the 40s. And I was talking to a colleague yesterday, here's a list of 45 or 46 things. I've done 4 this week. And it's not because I've not been doing anything. It's just stuff comes up and you just move with it.
So how do you work? Is it, I'm not sure there's a perfect answer to this. If there is, then there's not enough people doing it. But how do you manage that, Shaun, in terms of just time management, prioritization?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I say I'm lucky, but I find managing my own time and being able to identify what's important, I'm quite good at that. I'm also good at understanding what can wait, I could put that in a box, put that aside. And you have to have the ability to quite quickly assess what's important, what's not important, and decide what actions and decisions you need to make and in what order. And I try and get others, in the leadership group, the associates and heads and directors and stuff, to try and adopt that as a skill.
Yeah,
it's not easy for everyone because everyone is good at different things, but managing your time and actually trying to rise above the noise and the detail to try and map where you've got to get to. If you don't do that, you find that you're just swamped with too much detail. So it's just it's trying to get rid of the noise and focusing on what's important.
Yeah. And it's probably one of the great skills of a leader is that ability. You often, for example, you'll find that, or I find probably a lot of the very best people technically in the industry often don't reach leadership ranks because they probably get too caught up in the weed. They can't cope with the constant shifting of tasks. They like to do what they like to do, and they're very good at what they do, but they like to do what they like to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you looked at most organisations, if you think about in our sector, building surveyors, quantity surveyors, engineers, technicians, they are by their nature very technical people. Okay. And you will often find that the leaders of companies are the same people who have been very technical all their lives. Now, they might not necessarily be the right, they might not make it to the top position, but they deserve a place at that leadership because in the industry, they will have reached an expert level. And they deserve to be there, but that doesn't make them really good managers or leaders or anything else. They can be.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm certainly not the most technically gifted, but I can hold my own. But I've always found the aspect of running a business more interesting. In fact, if I go back all the way to my first building surveying job, I was working out as a sort of 23-year-old, how much time I can put into this job based on the fee. Now, as a graduate, you shouldn't really, I shouldn't have really been talking to think about that, but I was conscious about that and about being efficient and focusing on what the customer wanted and so on. And then as I grew more experienced and I had, sort of through to associate positions, my first job was at Ridge and Partners as it was. I was at Drivers Jonas, that became Deloitte. And in that role, I really developed, I was given the opportunity to develop my interest in running the business side of things, being efficient, customer focus, looking at it from a business perspective as opposed to a professional service perspective. And actually, when I was back in Ridge in the early days, I would have not arguments, but there would be a difference of opinion between what I was saying and what other professionals were saying. And back then, it was very much we're professionals first. And I kind of got what they meant, whether it's architects or surveyors or what have you. But they were professionals, not business people. And I looked at it the other way around. I said, no, you're in business. You're a business person, and it just so happens that what you're selling is expert services within the construction or the built environment. And it was just okay. Well, a lot of the time in the early days, fell on deaf ears. But I've always, I would use the argument: look, we could be selling baked beans, but we're not. We're selling expert services.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to look at it from a business perspective.
Yeah, no, 100%. Invariably, people like you will always end up running a business, whether that be through climbing a business internally or setting up your own business. Because I'm almost envious sometimes of the people who can actually just go to work and really love their job that much that they're actually perfectly happy being a senior building surveyor, for argument's sake, and that's actually. They're fine with that, and some people are, and that's perfectly fine, and that's not absolutely nothing against them whatsoever. But other people, you
need a real range of people within any successful business. You the last thing you want is to have everyone like you or what have you. You need a real range of experts. Different opinions, different backgrounds, everything, because without that you run the risk of not fulfilling the collective potential of your business. You really do need that wide range of approach and attitude and opinion to really get the best out of everyone and the business, and it benefits your customers at the end of the day. I get the point I think you're making in terms of some people are always destined to, go and run a business or lead or what have you. And funny enough, my first job, which it was, as I said, it was Ridge and Partners then. And I was lucky enough to work with a guy called Guy, actually. We did some work. He was a QS. He ran the QS and project management department. And I was, he was however old, he was in his 40s. I was in my early 20s. But we did a lot of work together. We were working for, I think we were doing work it was for the British Council out in Ukraine and Belarus and stuff. Had a great time. And one of the last things he said to me, and I was with him and a client, and Guy was explaining why I was leaving. And I always remember this. He said to the client, he says, cream will always rise to the top. And that kind of I understood what he was saying is that some people are it's just they're destined to get to a certain position. And that doesn't mean to say they're expert or professionally the best or technically the best. It's just they're destined to be in a position where they can lead and be at the helm.
Yeah, and want to be,
and want to be, yeah, and love it.
Yeah. So I asked you about a question about where you want to be in 5 years. You said probably on a beach somewhere. So how old are you now, Shaun?
56.
Okay, so. Is there a timeline there? Is there a succession plan for the business?
So there's no beach involved. That was a poor joke. So, it's interesting. So there's not a succession plan. And if my wife watches this, she'll be most upset. But in the sense of there is so much to do. There is so much opportunity. There is so much change. And I'm just bloody annoyed I'm 56, not 46 or 36.
I feel the same. I've just turned 50 and I feel this. I feel like there's an immense opportunity.
It's just so much going on at the moment. It's just awesome. You know, can I see myself retiring in when I'm 60? Well, you know, I think when I was 40, the concept of retiring at 60 seemed like a really good idea. But now I'm 56, the concept is losing its shine somewhat because it's getting ever closer. I think I'll always be active. I can't see me hanging up the boots too soon.
I think particularly, I think, don't get me wrong, I think it's applicable for women as it is for men, but I think for men, you've got to think about identity and needing identity, needing a purpose. I think. I mean,
I think it's the same for men or women. I mean, I'm not. An identity. I don't know. It's quite difficult to if you're in a role of leading and deciding direction and making key decisions about not just the business, but if you think about it, it's the business, but the business is people. So you're making decisions that are linked to people's livelihoods and direction and work type and everything. You know, you've got quite a responsibility to, you know, everyone who works within your business, but also all the other stakeholders, your clients, your customers, and so on. It's quite difficult when you need to be operating at a level that requires you to be the Duracell bunny that just keeps going. That's quite difficult to stop and let go. So,
look, I would agree. I can't see myself retiring. And look, you see it all the time, don't you? You see not only in the construction consultancy world, but in many verticals, in many industries, where, you know, somebody ends up having an exit and they sell a business and they are, you know, on paper, they should be the happiest person alive. You know, they'll never have to work again. They create, in some cases, generational wealth for future generations. And they go off, and in a year's time, they're back in the game again because
they're doing something else. And the other thing is, I mean, it's
often in the same space. That's the point.
Be in the same space, and you know. But I do like. I quite like the idea of. I mean, in terms of so there's no succession plan as such. But what I am spending my time doing is putting the time and the effort and training within the business to those who have that leadership, have the leadership credentials. So that's certainly that's part of the training and support and putting in place. Because you know, as we get larger, you know, I can't do everything.
No.
So you need a really good, strong team around you, and that's what we're developing and have developed actually. So it's effective. I quite like the idea of you know. I've always quite the idea of doing something different. I don't know what different would look like. It's interesting. I was speaking to a colleague the other day, and we got talking about that. I talk quite a lot about all sorts of different things to everyone in the company, and we were talking about you know, what is a measure of success, and actually, you know, that's a difficult question, because unfortunately the only common metric that indicates success is money. And that's quite sad, actually.
And it's often turnover, which is used rather than profit, which is even worse.
But even if you've sold and you've got wealth and all the rest of it. To what end does that actually mean success? But you see, success, if you sell your business for 50 million or whatever it is, that would be deemed a success. But is that more successful than somebody who has, fostered 30 children over a 20-year period? You see what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
The money, the wealth as a measure is, I would say, for a lot of the time, is probably misplaced.
In society, we measure material things as success, don't we?
There's only so much stuff you can collect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. You're absolutely right. I think a lot of it in whatever you do in life is, do you get out of bed every day wanting to do it? And if you get to the point where you have more days in a month where you're not motivated to do it, then you certainly at the very least need to look to change. That could be the way you run your business, whatever it may be. There's got to be something that.
Yeah, I'm lucky in the respect of, the first job I had in this industry, working on building sites. I was 14.
Yeah,
probably even younger actually.
Yeah,
local builder in the holidays. Hod carrying, putting up scaffolding, driving the dumpers and stuff, pneumatic drills. Obviously you couldn't do it these days.
Yeah.
So I've, from the age of sort of 14 onwards, I've enjoyed being in the construction industry and what have you, and I still love it. I just love. I love the work. I love the people. I like the pressure. I like the problem solving, even when there's drama and there's angst, and that's I still enjoy that part of it. So yeah, I'm lucky in that respect.
Yeah, good. And I think we only have one shot of life, don't we? So we may as well do something that we do.
Well, some people it doesn't have. I would probably suggest that most people don't actually fulfill that. A lot of my mates have been very successful in the city or finance or what have you. They don't necessarily love going to work,
right? Yeah.
But the money thing,
a lot of money. Yeah, okay, yeah. It's a trap, isn't it? If you get to the point where we all cut our cloth to our means. So if you get into that kind of
they
have a lifestyle,
they suck you in, and then that's it. You don't want to let that go.
Yeah, or can't. You can't. There's too much pride involved. There's too much. I don't know, kids end up at private school, etc., with a certain lifestyle, and before you know it, you're on that treadmill, whether you like it or not, whether
that's it.
You derive any joy or not from it.
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Shaun, that's been a really good chat. Thank you. I hope Harris Associates keeps going from strength to strength. That's brilliant that you want to increase by such a number this year, but obviously, it sounds like the business and you've still got a lot of fuel in the tank about where you want to go, what you want to do, different avenues, and I genuinely feel the same. I think there's a lot of opportunity at the moment. I think there's opportunity because there's a lot of change at the moment. I think organisations who are comfortable kind of embracing that change, running with the change, pursuing that change will do well, whereas the ones who want everything to stay as it is, I think will struggle.
Yeah, change is an opportunity, always is.
Yeah. So Shaun, I usually ask two questions at the end. One of them I think you'd kind of touched on already about who probably was your best mentor, or could be more than one person. So I guess that one first. So I know you mentioned a few names already.
Yeah, I guess I've never really had a mentor. Nor felt I needed one. I probably would have benefited,
or a boss even.
So the guy who I mentioned, he wasn't my boss, but I did work alongside him, and he was great because I think the reason why we got on, one, we had a very similar sense of humour, but he was technically excellent, but he wasn't like everyone else. He broke the rules. He did things differently. He understood the importance of the customer and the client, understanding what the client needed, and it aligned with how I was formulating how I wanted to be in my career. So yeah, I think Guy Austin would be the guy. My boss, David Walker, who worked alongside at the time, he'll be miffed that I haven't mentioned him. So sorry. Yeah.
Excellent. And then last question: if you were to gift a book to another business owner, is there a particular book you would say that's you'd recommend?
So I that's a really good question. I read a lot. I read probably 20 books a year, and it's always non-fiction. I say non-fiction. I've read 1984 over Christmas, so that obviously is fiction. But that was a good book. I like to read books that interest me, and it's often around about business or ideas and experiences and stuff. And actually, I usually end up reading the book going, well, I bloody knew all that anyway.
Well, that's often the case with a lot of things, isn't it?
But actually, the book that I would recommend any business user or leader of business reading, there's a book called, what's it called? No Bullshit Leadership.
Right.
If you go into, I can't remember who it's by. It's a really easy read. It's got loads of good stuff in there. And as I say, it was like reading my memoirs, to be honest with you, but it was excellent. And there's a lot to be, that's a book I would put forward for any business user.
Perfect. Good. Shaun, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you. Thank you for coming on board.
No, pleasure. Enjoyed it.